boy, does it make this game ever so bigger, even much bigger now. You know, I was thinking about this, and it kind of goes into the segment in the conversation that I wanted to have with you tonight. It's kind of like the cold hard truth. Where are you? Well, here's the real thing. You know, and I know, and everybody else knows that if you go out there in a couple of weeks and you beat Alabama with Bryce Underwood in the building, Jakeem Stewart in the building, all of these situations, you're still in the contender block of making the playoffs. You know, our friends over at BetOnline, you know, they would probably have LSU around if they did. You know, if they did this, they would have LSU in the first team out. It's like we should have asked them. Well, we did. You're sitting around that 13, 14, 15 mark. Not out of the playoff race. Team up top above you loses. You beat Alabama. You finish the regular season 10-2. You're going to be there. You're going to be there. Okay, you lost to USC early in the season because you're replacing a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. 2 first-round wide receivers. Oh, and by the way, what you've done with your defense to go 10-2 after, quite honestly, you had a Heisman Trophy winner. Like if Jaden Daniels would have had that, what would have happened? Those will be the conversation pieces. But here's the cold, hard truth. There are some things that you got to overcome. And Bryce Underwood being there, Stewart being there, and all these guys that are going to be there. You have one thing that you got to accomplish. Win out. The pressure's on now, man. The pressure is on. You know, I look at this team. There are 3 things that can be identified right now with this team. Guys, you're 76th in the country in turnovers. You're 89th in the country in pass defense. You're 79th on third down defense, and you're 111th in rushing offense. You have big weaknesses in big key areas. I mean, technically, you've been better at getting off the field on third down. You're much better this year than you were last year. You can see with your eyeballs that Blake Baker has been sending pressures and getting after the quarterback, and you're 6th in the country in sacks, and a lot of the big plays that you've been making is actually on third down. So maybe that statistic's not as big as it once, or the way that it looks. But the bottom line becomes is this. Guys, I got to tell you the cold, hard truth. I think that you can win out. But, man, if some of these things, rushing offense, third down defense, turnovers, pass defense, if 2 of those areas don't start getting better, you're not making the playoff. You're not. I think you should be in there. Guys, there's no way. There is no way that you can look at teams around the country and say to yourself, if you play turnover-free football, man, we got a shot to beat them. I think that you do. Now, there are a couple of teams like Oregon, Ohio State, potentially Georgia, Texas, that I don't think that you can beat. Like, I don't think you can beat those teams. You're not tough enough to beat those teams. But I'm going to tell you, man, this Bama game's massive. Because if you do win it, you go in there and you beat Bama. Guys, I'm not saying that the rest of your schedule is a cakewalk. But you're more than expected at that given moment to make a playoff. More than expected. There's no reason whatsoever that you should go in the swamp and lose. None. Blake, the swamp is a tough place to play. You're right, it is. It's a very tough place to play. They're not a better team than you. They are not a better team than you. By the way, if you can't run the football in Florida, you're in massive trouble. Guys, they're 94th in the country. 94th in the country in run defense. If you can't run the ball on them, you don't deserve to go to the playoff. You don't deserve it. Vandy. All right. Yeah, Vandy can be a very tough game. You're right. It can be. They're scrappy. I know they beat Bama. I know they lost to Texas by 3. I get that. I 1,000% get that. I got to tell you, man, don't you dare tell me that you don't think that. Don't you dare tell me that you don't look at 3 of the next 4 games and say, listen, I know that we have issues. I get it. We do. Because I got to tell you, I don't know if Vandy is better than South Carolina. I don't know that. Just because they beat Bama and close to Texas, I don't know that. South Carolina was close to Bama. Now, Bama beat them, and that I get that. Transitive property doesn't work here. It doesn't. Because I know what that South Carolina defense can do. We might see it this weekend against Texas A&M. You know, as an LSU fan. I just think you got so much left on the table, man, as a team. So much left on the table. I know a lot of people don't believe in you. It's fine. I get it. Because a lot of people don't. Because you're not winning in big moments. And here's the cold hard reality. Guys, you're not winning taking the Bama game out, and I shouldn't do that. Actually, I'm not going to. Because majority of the time in these bigger moments on the road, you lose. Guys, at home, you've been phenomenal the last 3 years. You've been really good. You've lost 1 game in that time span. You lost to Tennessee. If you would have told me, Blake, Brian Kelly will not lose but 1 game at home in year 1, would be the only time at home that he would lose. Into year 3, would you take it? Guys, there's not a one of you in here that wouldn't take that. Not one. What it also would tell me is that, hey, man, we're probably not going to lose. We may lose 2 road games. Possible. Are you losing all 3 of them? Okay. Guys, you have 3 games at home. I just don't see you going on any 3 or 2 game losing stretch here. I can't see it. I just cannot see it. Now, if you did, you know what I'm going to say. I'm not going to bring it up. If that actually did happen, it's mainly due to the fact because you're turning the ball over. But, or you're not able to run the football, or your defense is regressing. Name any specific thing. The cold hard reality is that now you got to finish. You got to finish. Always be closing is what we talked about in recruiting just a minute ago. Always be closing. Always be finishing. I know a couple of you got a chuckle out of that. You got a massive game at home versus Alabama. They're not going to – they want the same thing that you do. The same thing that you do is what Alabama wants. Both teams going into a hostile environment, into a loud environment. 2 teams are walking out because their goals are right in front of their face. There's no other way for Brian Kelly to make a playoff than this one. Hey, man, got beat at A&M, went into a bye. We won the last 4. We got in. Guys, if you win 10 games in the regular season, you're getting in. You got to take them one at a time. Bama presents, and we'll talk about this tomorrow a little bit, but Bama presents you a lot of problems. A lot of problems. So now you got to go out there and take what's yours. Guys, you lost to A&M, and your playoff odds on BetOnline kind of went down a little. Not much. Not much. Let me get back to something that I said earlier. 3 or 4 main areas that you got to work on. It's bad right now. Passing defense, for what it's worth, guys, you're still giving up a lot of yardage. I know that we're going to regress it down to the A&M game and say to ourselves, well, you know what, man? We only allowed 8 completions, and A&M didn't throw on us. Ole Miss did. Ole Miss threw on you. Trey Harris is still in the back of the end zone. They threw on you. Arkansas. Guys, I mean, I know you had the massive pick. Guys, Taylor Green did not have a bad game at all. That's how they were moving the football. They had 10 points. I get it. And your defense had a great performance against the 7th overall total offense in the country. That's where Arkansas is right now. But, man, you got to clean that up. And to be honest with you, if I don't want to see that funky formation from Blake Baker again. You can be creative by not doing that. Remember when he ran that funky I formation and it was 3rd and 7 and A&M ran the ball for a first down? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Guys, they checked to a run on that. Wigman looked to the sideline and literally got a run call, and they ran it right at you. You didn't run it again, but even then, what are we doing? You ran gimmicky shit like that only to get your ass beat. Come on, dude. Come on, bro. That. It worked against Arkansas. I don't give 2 shits if it worked against Arkansas. This isn't Arkansas. The cold hard truth. You should be there, man. Your expectation for this season should be a playoff. I'm telling you. Blake, how can you say that watching this team? Because, guys, I think that you can beat Bama at home. I think you can beat the other 3 teams on your schedule. You got a massive test in Bama. No one is downplaying that. Nobody is downplaying that Bama game. Not here, not me. Trust me, not me. There does come a moment in time, though. We're there. I mean, you're in year 3 of your head coach. You're paying him a lot of money to be there.